Let's move on to the next question here. China invested $12 billion in Latin America last year. They signed strategic partnerships in 7 countries, including Mexico. China's military ties to the region now include arms sales and training exercises. Are you comfortable with China deepening ties on our southern border?
Obviously, everyone should be concerned, but the reality of who caused this is the U.S. elites. U.S. elites are responsible for this, not us. Again, we should make a big difference between when we say we, meaning the American people, versus the American elites. The American elites fully collaborate with the Chinese elites. This would not happen without full support from the elites. The elites are moving large amounts of their capital into the BRICS nations, right? Brazil, India, Russia, and China. So we need to make very clear that what we're witnessing before us is essentially a consolidation of power among a global set of elites. Now, China, essentially what they're doing in Latin America or Africa is essentially a different approach, right? China goes to those people and educates them, gives them money, right? Helps them build roads and infrastructure. The United States elites go to them, Africa, Latin America, and they tell them to all become gay, right? Or I'll tell them to support LBGT, right? This is what we export. We're not really exporting any level of knowledge. We're not giving people in Latin America infrastructure, right? In fact, what we've been doing in Latin America, since the 1960s, right, is we've been exporting and supporting dictatorships, right? Chile was a clear example of this. We supported this guy Pinochet, right, who butchered his own people, butchered students who were protesting, and buried them in the walls of a stadium in order to make sure the U.S. could have access to monopolies of Anaconda Mine, which is one of the biggest copper mines. So that's what we've been doing. So we have no right to critique China, right? Because the U.S. elites did that to suppress the working people of Latin America. And now, through their own interaction with the elites of China, they're doing a second round of exploitation of the people of Latin America. So ultimately, the working people in the United States need to unite. We need to build a movement, and we need to link arms with the working people of Latin America. That's what needs to happen. That's really the real source of the issue. Again, it's theater. It's absolute theater to say the U.S. versus China, the U.S. versus Russia. These are all dialectics which are designed so we remove our eye off the ball of who our real enemy is.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I love that you bring up the exploitation from the Anglo-American establishment on South America and our neighbors to the south. It's despicable what we've done to them. And there's many a good book on that topic. Highly recommend Confessions of an Economic Hitman, which is a very good book on that topic. Exactly.
By the way, let me be clear. The percentage of people who want to focus on LBGT rights versus the percentage of people who want to focus on making sure they have good health care and wages and infrastructure, I think is vastly different. So the United States goes to these countries, promotes LBGT rights as the center issue, not about health care, not about food, not about education. China's coming in there and saying, we're going to help you with food, education, health care. Who are you going to go with? It's pretty obvious, right? Who are you going to go with?
Absolutely. We need a return to sanity. Let's move on to the next question here. In 2017, the Trump-Pence administration canceled DACA, which put the legal status of 600,000 dreamers in the hands of courts. Dreamers work and they pay taxes. As president, if the Supreme Court ends DACA, would you work with Congress to reach a permanent solution for dreamers?
Yeah. So, Chris, again, we have to see this as a system solution, right? The DACA issue is part of the larger issue of immigration. So you notice what they do. They do not want to go solve the real immigration issue. They peel away a piece of it like DACA, you see? And then they create a little theater over here. So the Democrats act like they're doing something, and then they make the Republicans look like they're the enemy, not doing something. The comprehensive solution to immigration is very simple. Take all of the people who are quote unquote illegal immigrants, put them on a path to citizenship, provided they don't have these crimes and all those issues, and they can show that they're actually working. If they're working people in the United States, put them on a path to citizenship. And that should be done within one congressional term, right? One semester of Congress should do that. It shouldn't be prolonged more than 13 weeks, period. This is not a difficult issue to address and solve if you want to solve it. But if you just want to do something for political points and for the media to create the left-right narrative, Fox says this, CNN says this is going to keep going on forever. So again, my solution is I actually have a blueprint, which we had on our Shiva for Senate site. It's basically a 5-page blueprint. Step one, do this. You call all the congressional people together. You publicly do a whiteboard session, which I would do, right? Make all of these people accountable in an open forum that it should be televised. Go to the Senate Majority Leader, the House Majority Leader, and say, are you going to do this? Okay. And if you're not going to do it, tell us why right now in front of these cameras. You say you need to get their commitments. Now, are you going to commit that you're going to do this versus end the session? Oh, I got to go on vacation. All these people are being paid by tax dollars. They get amazing benefits. You go into Congress, you get pension for life. You get a pension for life. Okay. So all of these people are getting paid handsomely. They should go there and solve the immigration issue in 13 weeks or less. Yes, that's what they should do. And they should bring their sleeping bags. They should tent up there and they should not leave until this blueprint that I have is put into practice. Because the solution is very simple, as I've laid out. Make sure those people who are hardworking, people who came to this country and contributing, they be put on a path of citizenship. Tax them, get $2 to $4 trillion in tax revenue.
So I'm listening to your answer there. Many people would say it would be a miracle for Congress to come together on anything. How exactly would you work with Congress, or is there any way to work it?
No, you can't. They're all criminals. Okay. Every member of Congress, the reason I say they're all criminals, no one should expect, I'm not going to set the standard. Will you work with them? No, I'm not going to work with them. We should be very clear. The judiciary is corrupt. The legislature is corrupt. The presidency is corrupt. All right. We need to build a movement. My winning the presidency is literally the people taking over this country. That's what it is, in a peaceful way. And the day you get elected to office, this is essentially a phase transition has taken place. A revolutionary event has taken place. And the idea is to use the authority of the people in the first 100 days to move very quickly, Chris, because a revolution, just my winning is more than just winning the presidency. It's a revolutionary event took place. Would you not agree? It's way beyond that. So what would we do? We would immediately end the proxy war in Russia and Ukraine and bring all the troops home. We'll prosecute the heads of all the social media companies who've been involved in collusion with the government to destroy the First Amendment. We'll immediately execute, after a speedy trial, the heads of mainstream media companies who have literally been involved as a government psychological operation against every U.S. citizen. We'll seize all diplomatic relations with the City of London until they deal with the endemic criminality that's taking place there. We should seize all the assets of Amazon and all the big tech companies and make it a public holding, which every citizen can buy into. No one can own more than 1%. Anyone with dual citizenship must resign their public position. We should take down the criminal ADL and prosecute, frankly, Jeffrey Greenblatt. Remove all funding for Israel. We'll also should prosecute all the graduates of the Young Global Leaders program of the WEF for treason and conspiracy to commit treason. And it's very easy because we have a force of the people who voted for me winning that office of the presidency. We should exit, as I mentioned before, the United Nations, the WHO, the IMF, and obviously NATO. But there needs to be an expropriation of assets of people who've been running a criminal operation, from the Bushes to the Clintons to the Trumps, the Kennedys, the Sanders, and frankly, every member of Congress. Every member of Congress, all of them, is part of this criminal enterprise. Now, why do I say that? Because every single one of them voted unanimously for the creation of the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency on November 16th, 2018. The fundamentals of the United States says Congress shall pass, no law shall be passed to abridge the freedom of speech. They all were part of this. So none of them should be, all their assets should be expropriated because everything that they have has been made from cutting deals against the American people. Nancy Pelosi is an egregious example. Goes into Congress with nothing and has close to $500 million in assets now. On, right? Jared Kushner's gets a $2 billion loan. Yeah, I'm not going to work with any of them. Fuck that. I'm going to work with the people who brought us into power. Those are who we need to work with. And we will make sure in every inner city, in every suburb, all these people vote for us. They're properly trained to seize local power in their local counties. And then we have a self-organizing system. We need a systems overhaul. Your child's lifespan is going to be less than yours. These people do not deserve to be in power. The real question is, what are we going to do about that crime? Let's focus on the real crime. You say the real crime is all those guys on stage. And that's why the only solution for everyone listening is you got to go to shivaforpresident.com and get ready to vote for Shiva for President. Get one of these bumper stickers and put it on the back of your car. And when you do that, you're saying a big fuck you. And what you're saying is, I'm going to come after all of you criminals by voting for Dr. Shiva. You see how they phrase these questions? It's an assumption that they're not criminals. Okay. Chris Christie was the attorney general or whatever, the governor of New Jersey, where I grew up in. He's a fucking criminal, right? Who's he? He's a mobster. Look at him. He's a fat fucking mobster, right? By the way, I went to school with him. He used to be the catcher on our baseball team. Put on a lot of weight since then. But regardless of that, all of those people on the stage, Chris, are all criminals. The issue is, what are we going to do to jail them? What are we going to do to prosecute all of them? And why are they even on the debate stage? It's a crime that they use social media and then they have this alliance with government to make our campaign invisible. Is that not a crime? How many civil rights laws does that break? How many election interference laws does that break? So they get away with crime every day. Okay. So we need to really define who's the criminal here. They're the criminals.